From pillar to post, from coast to coast, confusion all across the land. The hidden word is what I'd like to say, but tell me when you listen, my friend. And I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just I want to praise his name. Good morning, everyone. Hang on, let me push a button here. I got something in my way here on the Zoom stream. Okay, I hope everyone is doing well this morning. As you can see, we're not in our usual place today. I'm at home, and I'm not alone, thank goodness. The lovely and talented Nini Ha is here on the other side of the room. Daryl, unfortunately, isn't feeling well today, so he can't be with us today, but we hope that he feels better soon, and hopefully he'll be back with us next Sunday. Good morning, Camby's, how are you?
Good morning, Tony. Thank you for asking.
And good morning, Taranay. How are you? She's good. She has herself muted. And say hi to Nate again for me. Hey there, Nate. Nate's waving. Nate and Taranay are a lovely couple. They have, get this, hey, they're a young couple, and they have 4 kids. 4 kids. 4 wonderful kids, I might add. I know them all, and they're really good kids. They're a wonderful family, as is Camby's family. We want to again say, and at least offer our sympathies to Camby's family. Farah, his wife, she had a brother that passed away. I believe it was last week before last. And yeah, so we want to keep them in our prayers. And of course, again, we want to pray for Daryl to feel better. And maybe I should go ahead and say, we don't say this often enough, but if anyone would like us to include you in our prayers, certainly as spiritual people and as Baha'is, we are certainly admonished to pray and pray frequently and fervently. So we got our Facebook feed, or you could put it in our Zoom chat or whatever, and just let us know if you need some prayers. We'd be glad to pray for you. Even if we don't do it here in the program, we certainly would like to make a note of it and be sure to include you in our prayers. Now, today, we're going to be doing things a little differently. As you know, if you've been with us before, we've been reading from the book, The Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. The Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. And we've been going chapter by chapter, as we will continue to do. But last week, when we were on chapter 5, the title of that chapter is All the Manifestations of God Proclaim the Same Truth. Proclaim the same faith. All the manifestations of God proclaim the same faith. And that was a very meaty chapter. They all are, but this one was actually quite lengthy. And I think for a lot of people, if you are relatively new to learning about the teachings of the Baha'i faith, as I was saying earlier when Camby's and I were talking, this idea of all the manifestations of God proclaiming the same faith, I think for a lot of people is a new shift in thinking. I like to call it a new paradigm shift, but a new shift in thinking, even though it is, again, the truth that has existed from the beginning of time, or let's say before the beginning of time. So, but again, because the chapter was so lengthy, I thought it would be a good idea if we went back and just pulled the main points from that chapter. We're not going to go into any detail. We're not going to do a whole lot of explaining or anything, because I do want to get into the next chapter as well. And I didn't want to, get bogged down in reading this entire chapter all over again. And the next chapter, frankly, is quite brief, and so it allows us some time. But so I'm going to go ahead and start here. Again, the name of this chapter of the Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission all the manifestations of God proclaim the same faith. Now, for anyone, again, who's new, I want to remind you, the manifestations of God, we also refer to them as messengers of God. Many people just call them prophets, okay? And the manifestations or messengers of God are those major prophets that have actually established a world faith. All righty. So what are some of the main points from this chapter? Farah is coming on. Hi, good morning, Farah. How are you? Always like to see when Farah pops up too. So some of the main points here, and in fact, it starts out with one of the main points. Reality or truth is one. In other words, there's only one truth. Reality or truth is one and unchangeable. And what I'm doing is I'm reading excerpts and very abbreviated passages here. But reality or truth is one and unchangeable. Reality is indivisible and not multiple. This is coming from Abdul Baha. Reality is indivisible and not multiple. He then goes on to say, the holy manifestations who have been the sources or founders of the various religious systems were united and agreed in purpose and teaching. He even lists them. Abraham, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah are one in spirit and reality. He goes on to say, moreover, each prophet fulfilled the promise of the one who came before him. Good morning, Joan. Each prophet fulfilled the promise of the one who came before him, and likewise, each announced the one who would follow. Okay? Again, that's one of those huge points that, you know, everyone might feel, I don't know, a little, maybe a little surprised to hear. Each prophet fulfilled the promise of the one who came before him, and likewise, each announced the one who would follow. Abdul Baha goes on to say, the divine religion is reality. The divine religion is reality, and reality is not multiple. It is one. Therefore, the foundations of the religious systems are one because all proceed from the same indivisible reality. But the followers of these systems have disagreed. I'll say that again. Even though, you know, again, the religious systems are one, he goes on to say, but the followers of these systems have disagreed. Discord, strife, and warfare have arisen among them, for they have forsaken the foundation and held to that which is but imitation and semblance. Kind of looks like it, but it's not the real thing. He says they have forsaken the foundation and held to that which is but imitation and semblance. He goes on to say, inasmuch as imitations differ, enmity and dissension have resulted. Enmity and dissension have resulted. He actually makes and uses for an example, he uses Jesus Christ. He says, for example, Jesus Christ made my spirit be a sacrifice unto him. Jesus Christ laid the foundation of eternal reality, but after his departure, many sects and divisions appeared in Christianity. What was the cause of this? There is no doubt that they originated in dogmatic imitations, for the foundations of Christ were reality itself, in which no divergence exists. When imitations appeared, sects and denominations were formed. In this same passage, a little further down, he says, but he uses, again, the Christianity as the example, but he uses that as a jumping point to all of the major faiths. He says, in all of the existing religious systems, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. If all of the existing religious systems will turn away from ancestral imitations and investigate reality, seeking the real meanings of the holy books, they will unite and agree upon the same foundation. And guess what he says the same foundation is? Reality itself. As long as they follow counterfeit doctrines or imitations instead of reality, animosity, and discord will exist and increase. And we have Gila with us in the Zoom stream. Good morning, Gila. He goes on to say, likewise, the divine religions of the holy manifestations of God, we name those holy manifestations. He says, likewise, the divine religions of the holy manifestations of God are in reality one, though in name and nomenclature. Nomenclature means the terms they use, the names they use, and so forth. Big word, but it just means the various terms and, let's say the jargon that's used in each faith. He says, likewise, the divine religions of the holy manifestations of God are in reality one, though in name and nomenclature they differ. And then he says, man must be a lover of the light, no matter from what day spring it may appear. Man must be a lover of the light, no matter from what day spring it may appear. He must be a lover of the rose, no matter in what soil it may be growing. He must be a seeker of the truth, no matter from what source it may come. Attachment to the lantern is not loving the light. And if we were to see each of these manifestations of God as the lantern that brings the light of God, notice he still says, attachment to the lantern is not loving the light. He then talks about the purpose of religion. The purpose of religion is the acquisition of praiseworthy virtues, the betterment of morals, the spiritual development of mankind, the real life and divine bestowals. All the prophets have been the promoters of these principles. None of them has been the promoter of corruption, vice, or evil. They have summoned mankind to all good. They have united people in the love of God, invited them to the religions of the unity of mankind, and exhorted them to amity and agreement. He then goes on to say, the foundations of the religions of God are one foundation. This foundation is not multiple, for it is reality itself, and reality does not admit of multiplicity. Although each of the divine religions is separable into two divisions. And this is important that we point this out again. Each of the divine religions is separable into two divisions. One concerns the world of morality and the ethical training of human nature. I'm going to repeat that again. One concerns the world of morality and the ethical training of human nature. It is directed to the advancement of the world of humanity in general. It reveals and inculcates or instills the knowledge of God and makes possible the discovery of the verities of life. Verities are the realities of life. I'm going to read that again. Each of the divine religions is separable into two divisions. One concerns the world of morality and the ethical training of human nature. It is directed to the advancement of the world of humanity in general. It reveals and inculcates the knowledge of God and makes possible the discovery of the verities of life. So that's the first part of religion. That's the first part of it. But then there's a second part. And he says, the second classification or division comprises social laws and regulations applicable to human conduct. The second classification or division comprises social laws and regulations applicable to human conduct. He said, this is not the essential spiritual quality of religion. This is not the essential spiritual quality of religion. It is subject to change and transformation according to the exigencies and requirements of time and place. Wow. I won't read that again, but I want to. We need to be moving. Well, heck, I'm going to just read that section, that line again. It is subject to change and transformation according to the exigencies and requirements of time and place. He then goes on to say, and this is about why there seem to be changes in religion. He says the essential laws, the spiritual laws, do not change. The social laws do. Such changes and transformations in the teaching of religion are applicable to the ordinary conditions of life. Here's the kicker, but they are not important or essential. I'm going to read that line again. Such changes and transformations in the teaching of religion are applicable to the ordinary conditions of life, but they are not important or essential. He talked about the laws that Moses made because they were necessary at the time when they did, the laws seemed harsh in our view, but they didn't have police forces and things of that nature. And they didn't have judicial systems, which hopefully ours will come around to working fairly, but they didn't have all those trappings in that day. Abdu'l-Baha then goes on to say, time changes conditions and laws change to suit conditions. We must remember that these changing laws are not the essentials. They are the accidentals of religion. The essential ordinances established by a manifestation of God are spiritual. I'll say that again. I'm going to start from the beginning of that. Time changes conditions and laws change to suit conditions. We must remember that these changing laws are not the essentials. They are the accidentals of religion. The essential ordinances established by a manifestation of God are spiritual. They concern moralities, the ethical development of man and faith in God. So he explains why, there seem to be changes from one faith to the next, but those are the non-essential aspects of faith in God, the non-essential aspects of religion. Moving on, he goes on to say, inasmuch as our God, I need to start at a different, slightly different place because this is an answer to a question. He says, why not put an end to this religious strife and establish a bond of connection between the hearts of men? Why should not the followers of one religion praise the founder or teacher of another? Inasmuch as our God is one God and the creator of all mankind, he provides for and protects all. We acknowledge him as a God of kindness, justice, and mercy. Why then should we, his children and followers, war and fight, bringing sorrow and grief into the hearts of each other? God is loving and merciful. His intention in religion has ever been the bond of unity and affinity between humankind. His intention, God's intention in religion has ever been the bond of unity and affinity between humankind. So we give an Abdu'l-Baha gives, several points in explaining, why we should see all the manifestations of God as coming from the same source and teaching the same faith. Well, now we're going to switch very briefly before we move on to Shoghi Effendi, because Shoghi Effendi, he emphasizes the fact that even this current revelation, the Baha'i revelation, is not the last revelation. Baha'u'llah is not the last manifestation of God. It is an ongoing process. And so he says, no, this is a continuation of a statement, nor does the Baha'i revelation, I'm going to paraphrase that too, the Baha'i revelation does not claim, oh, that doesn't work. Let me just read it as he wrote it. Nor does the Baha'i revelation, claiming as it does to be the culmination of a prophetic cycle and the fulfillment of the promise of all ages, it does not attempt under any circumstances to invalidate those first and everlasting principles that animate and underlie the religions that have preceded it. The God-given authority vested in each one of them, it admits and established as its firmest and ultimate basis. It regards them, meaning the previous revelation, the previous manifestations of God, it regards them in no other light except as different stages in the eternal history and constant evolution of one religion, divine and indivisible, of which it itself forms an integral part. So it's just saying we're just another one of these ongoing manifestations, ongoing revelations. And then finally, He says, well, actually, I have two passages here. Far from aiming at the overthrow. I should preface this by saying, a lot of times people see a new revelation or a new manifestation as attempting to overthrow the previous teachings. Shoghi Effendi says, far from aiming at the overthrow of the spiritual foundation of the world's religious systems, its avowed, its unalterable purpose is to widen their bases, to reinvigorate their life, to demonstrate their oneness, to restore the pristine purity of their teachings, to coordinate their functions, and to assist in the realization of their highest aspirations. And finally, he says, it should also be borne in mind that great as is this power manifested by this revelation, and however vast the range of the dispensation its author, and I'm putting in brackets, Baha'u'llah, however vast the range of the dispensation its author has inaugurated, it emphatically repudiates the claim to be regarded as the final revelation of God's will and purpose for mankind. And so that actually took a little longer than I thought. But again, because we had to fly through this so fast last week, and there are some such weighty points made here that I will say again, for many people is a new way of thinking about religion, is a new way of looking at religion, especially if you've already grown up practicing in a particular faith tradition, practicing in a particular faith tradition. This is a new way of looking at it. And so I felt that maybe this gave us the opportunity to kind of go back, look at some of the main points, and kind of expound upon them a little bit more. I have to admit, I got to give credit where credit is due. Actually, Joan, who's with us today, she in our Facebook stream, she suggested that. And I just felt that it was a good suggestion. It's a great idea. And I think it was important that we do that. I think we're going to go ahead and just very, very briefly stop for a quick little song here that I think is appropriate given the topics. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved is come. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved. He who is the best beloved is come. Let us praise him. Let us praise him. Let us praise him. Baha'u'llah. Let us praise him. Let us praise him. Let us praise him. The glory of God. He who is the best beloved is come. 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 And while I will admit that is actually a line from a Baha'i passage in the Revelation of Baha'u'llah, it would be just appropriate based on what we've read today and reviewed today. It would be just appropriate if we sang that song for every other manifestation of God. It's just that this line, he who is the best beloved is come, actually came from one of Baha'u'llah's writings. Now today, to go beyond the review of today, we've still got time. One thing you have to understand about the coming of a new manifestation is it begins a new age. It begins a new age. Even in the Bible, there's that passage where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and it is sometimes, there's that line that is sometimes translated as, I will be with you to the end of the world. And if you listen to that, it sounds like the world is going to end. But it's also sometimes translated as, I will be with you to the end of the age. I will be with you to the end of the age. And what Baha'u'llah tells us is that every time a new manifestation of God comes, it's a new age. It's a new age. So let's go ahead and read this next chapter. A new age has begun. We're going to start with Baha'u'llah, and then the rest of the writings will come from Abdul-Baha.
Can I say something first?
Of course you can.
As a Christian background, as a Christian right now,
Mhm.
lots of people will not agree with that new age thing
Mhm.
because they will say, it will be the end of the world. But the thing is, they also teach in the Bible as eternal. So for my understanding and for the relationship that I have with God, to me, the eternal doesn't mean afterlife. The
Mhm.
eternal could be still in this world.
Yes. Mhm.
Because just look at the history. Maybe nowadays the weather change, everything's changed. They might think the world's gonna disappear one day or gonna be destroyed. But God is not gonna be destroyed, so no matter what, it is eternal and it's a new phase.
Right. And so things change. And that's really what this chapter is about. Okay. And what happens when a new age begins? So Baha'u'llah says, verily I say, this is the day in which mankind can behold the face and hear the voice of the promised one. I don't think that needs much explanation. Verily I say, this is the day in which mankind can behold the face and hear the voice of the promised one. The call of God hath been raised, and the light of his countenance hath been lifted up upon men. It behooveth every man to blot out the trace of every idle word from the tablet of his heart, and to gaze with an open and unbiased mind on the signs of his revelation, the proofs of his mission, and the tokens of his glory. So that's Baha'u'llah's calling to everyone, that this is a new age. And then Abdul-Baha goes on to kind of give us some explanations that help us understand what this means for us. Abdul-Baha says, when the holy divine manifestations or prophets appear in the world, a cycle of radiance, an age of mercy dawns. Everything is renewed. Minds, hearts, and all human forces are reformed. Perfections are quickened. Sciences, discoveries, and investigations are stimulated afresh. And everything appertaining to the virtues of the human world is revitalized. There's that often stated quote from Jesus Christ. Behold, I make all things new. Consider this present century of radiance. And he was speaking in the early 20th century when he said this. I should point that out, give us some context. Consider this present century of radiance and compare it with the past centuries. What a vast difference exists between them. How minds have developed, how perceptions have deepened, how discoveries have increased, what great projects have been accomplished, how many realities have become manifest, how many mysteries of creation have been probed and penetrated. What is the cause of this? It is through the efficacy of the spiritual springtime in which we are living. Each time a new manifestation comes, it is the term that's often stated in Baha'i writings is a spiritual springtime. What is the cause of this? It is through the efficacy of the spiritual springtime in which we are living. Day by day, the world attains a new bounty. In this radiant century, neither the old customs nor the old sciences, crafts, laws and regulations have remained. The old political principles are undergoing change, and a new body politic is in process of formation. He gives a little, I'm not going to say an acceptance, but a condition here. He says, nevertheless, some whose thoughts are congealed, let's say like Jello, nevertheless, some whose thoughts are congealed and whose souls are bereft of the light of the Son of Reality seek to arrest this development in the world of the minds of men. In other words, there are those people that want to stop any change that is coming. I'll read that again. Some whose thoughts are congealed and whose souls are bereft of the light of the Son of Reality seek to arrest this development in the world of the hearts of men. Is this possible? The purpose is that a world of existence is dependent for its progress upon reformation. Otherwise, it will be as dead. The purpose is the world of existence is dependent for its progress upon reformation. Otherwise, it will be as dead. In other words, in this eloquent statement, Abdul-Baha is saying, change is necessary. Change is necessary. The world is never going to stop changing. Consider, if a new springtime failed to appear, what would be the effect upon this globe, the earth? Undoubtedly, it would become desolate and life extinct. The earth has need of an annual coming of spring. It is necessary that a new bounty should be forthcoming. If it comes not, if it doesn't come, in other words, life would be effaced or erased. In the same way, the world of spirit needs new life. The world of mind necessitates new animus and development. The world of souls, a new bounty. The world of morality, a reformation. The world of divine effulgence, ever new bestowals. Were it not for this replenishment, the life of the world will become effaced and extinguished. He uses the room that he was in at the time as an example. If this room is not ventilated and the air freshened, respiration will cease after a length of time. If no rain falls, all life organisms will perish. If new life does not come, the darkness of death will develop the earth. I'm sorry, the darkness of death. I lost my place there. Hang on. Okay, there we go. I didn't think develop was the right word. If new light does not come, the darkness of death will envelop the earth. If a new springtime does not arrive, life upon this globe will be obliterated. Therefore, thoughts must be lofty and ideals uplifted in order that the world of humanity may become assisted in new conditions of reform. Again, there we go. Change and reform, change and reform. When this reformation affects every degree, then will come the very day of the Lord of which all the prophets have spoken. That is the day wherein the whole world will be regenerated. That's a pretty important statement. I'm going to read those two statements again. When this reformation affects every degree, not just a little part here and there, but when this reformation affects every degree, then will come the very day of the Lord of which all the prophets have spoken. That is the day wherein the whole world will be regenerated. Consider, are the laws of past ages applicable to present human conditions? Evidently, they are not. For example, the laws of former centuries sanctioned despotic forms of government. Are the laws of despotic control fitted for present-day conditions? How can they be applied to solve the questions surrounding modern nations? I'm going to go ahead and put a little note in there. We see people trying to do that today. And as we see, no, it's not working, no matter how hard they try. how could they be applied to solve the questions surrounding modern nations? Similarly, we ask, would the status of ancient thought, the crudeness of arts and crafts, the insufficiency of scientific attainment serve us today? Would the agricultural methods of the ancients suffice in the 20th century or now the 21st century? Transportation in the former ages was restricted to conveyance by animals. How would it provide for human needs today? If modes of transportation had not been reformed, the teeming millions now upon the earth would die of starvation. Without the railway and the fast-going steamship, and you got to remember this was the early 20th century, so now we also have to apply, include planes and jets and so forth. Without the railway and fast-going steamship, the world of the present day would be as dead. How could great cities such as New York and London subsist if dependent upon ancient means of conveyance? It is also true of other things which have been reformed in proportion to the needs of the present time. Had they not been reformed, man could not find subsistence. If these material tendencies are in such need of reformation, how much greater the need in the world of the human spirit, the world of human thought, perception, virtues, and bounties? Is it possible that that need has remained stationary while the world has been advancing in every other condition and direction? He emphatically states it is impossible. Therefore, we must invoke and supplicate God and strive with the utmost effort in order that the world of human existence in all its degrees may receive a mighty impulse, complete human happiness be attained, and the resuscitation of all spirits and emanations be realized through the boundless favor of the mercy of God. I'm going to read that again. We must invoke and supplicate God and strive with the utmost effort in order that the world of human existence in all its degrees may receive a mighty impulse, complete human happiness be attained, and the resuscitation of all spirits and emanations be realized through the boundless favor of the mercy of God. Abdul-Baha goes on to say, and this next statement is huge based on everything we've already read. Now, the new age is here, and creation is reborn. Now the new age is here, and creation is reborn. Humanity hath taken on new life. The autumn hath gone by, and the reviving spring is here. All things are now made new. Arts and industries have been reborn. There are new discoveries in science, and there are new inventions. Even the details of human affairs, such as dress and personal effects, even weapons, all these have likewise been renewed. The laws and procedures of every government have been revised. Renewal is the order of the day. And all this newness hath its source in the fresh outpourings of wondrous grace and favor from the Lord of the kingdom, which have renewed the world. The people, therefore, must be set completely free from their old patterns of thought. That's important. The people, therefore, must be set completely free from their old patterns of thought, that all their attention may be focused upon these new principles. For these are the light of this time and the very spirit of this age. Wow. Our final.
We have to point it out, everything is new, but it's still one God.
Yes.
And just because God is almighty, we cannot imagine with our little brain, but we're his creator.
Yes.
He
His
created
creation. Yes.
We're his creation.
Yeah.
But in our brain, it still has a little chips that he put it in.
Yeah.
So we are a creator of this world as well.
That's right. We're partners in that regard.
So
we're not literally
we don't
partners with
grow,
God on that level,
if
but
we
you're
don't
right.
grow, we don't renew and we will be bored to death.
Isn't it amazing that that so many people at least live their lives or their thoughts kind of, they're willing to accept the progress as part of the physical world, or what is often called in the Baha'i writings, the contingent world, but have a difficulty accepting spiritual progress. Spiritual progress is not exempt from progress, or spirituality is not exempt from progress.
It's a need, but we have to understand it's still based on one God,
Exactly.
one unity.
That reality of God is still the foundation of it all. And then Abdul Baha finally says, it is a blessed century, it is a blessed day. The philosophers of history have agreed that this century, he's referring to the 20th century at that time, the philosophers of history have agreed that this century is equal to 100 past centuries. This is true from every standpoint. This is the century of science, inventions, discoveries, and universal laws. This is the century of the revelation of the mysteries of God. This is the century of the effulgence of the rays of the Sun of Truth. Therefore, you must render thanks and glorification to God that you were born in this age. Living in this time, as hectic and as chaotic as things may be, as they are, living in this time is still a blessing. The problems primarily arise, and he pointed that out, where there are people that want to hang on to those old ways of thinking. They don't want to move forward. They don't want to move forward spiritually. And so they want to hang on to a lot of those old laws, which we now know, a lot of those old social laws are just accidental laws. They're the non-essential parts of religion. And yet, unfortunately, there are many people that have a problem letting that go. So again, this is that new age. And as I said earlier, that for many people, that's a shift in thought. The acceptance of all the manifestations of God as being based on one foundation, that foundation being God, the oneness of all religion, because they all come from the same source. The fact that the differences are simply because of the differences in social laws that were made at the time because of the necessities, or the term that's used, the exigencies of the time. This explains all of that. But in the end, we're still based on that one reality. All existence is based on that one reality, which is one religion and one God, even saying that we still have to keep moving forward spiritually, because as Abdul Baha pointed out, without reform, basically we all die. We're going to go ahead and move forward now. I wanted to do another song, but I don't think I will. Because we're so happy that Camby's is back with us today. And I do want to say good morning to some of you that came in after we began. Hushang is with us, and Matthew is with us, and Geedy is with us, and Gilbert is with us. And I believe I said hello to Joan, but hi, Joan. And so at this point, if anyone has a prayer or a reading or a song that you'd like to share with us, as usual, we like to point out, we like to start out with our Camby's moment. Camby's, you have something for us today?
Sure. ای پروردگار ابرار را از بادیه اسرار سرمست کن و مطلع انوار هدایت فرما و ولهی به دلها ده و وجد و طوبا به جانها بخش. گوشها را محرم راز کن و قلوب را هماهنگ و هم آواز فرما تا یاران علم وحدت انسانی در این جهان بلند نمایند و سبب الفت و یگانگی جمیع بیگانگان گردند. تویی مقتدر و توانا و تویی بخشنده و دهنده و عالم و بینا.
Thank you, Comprise.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to share? Anyone who would like to share a prayer?
I'd like to say a prayer for the departed from my brother who just passed.
Please.
O my God, O thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of afflictions. Verily I beseech thee to forgive the sins of such as have abandoned the physical garment and have ascended to the spiritual world. O my Lord, purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change their darkness into light. Cause them to enter the garden of happiness, cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendors on the loftiest mount.
Thank you, Farah. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Unto thee have I raised my hands, O Lord, and in thee have I found sheltering support, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord, and upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. Unto thee have I raised my hands, O Lord, and in thee have I found sheltering support, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord, and upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. By thee am I strengthened, O Lord. And unto thee have I resigned myself, O Lord. And upon thee have I placed my whole reliance, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. And by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, by thee am I strengthened, O Lord. By thee am I strengthened, O Lord. That song is actually based on a prayer by the Bab, the forerunner of Baha'u'llah. And that though every word in this particular song actually comes from one of the lines in that prayer, or a couple of the lines in that prayer. Now, I do want to point out for the folks in our Facebook feed that Joan, who's in our Zoom feed, actually put something that's really important to point out. She says, and this is in the chat here, women will lead the way in change because they're more accustomed to change than men are. And this is, she's getting this straight from the writings. I mean, this is based on something I think I remember reading by Abdul-Baha. Women will lead the way in change because they are more accustomed to change than men are. They change their names and often change their dreams to support their partner's aspirations. They will change the attitude of the world and raise another generation to go further. So thank you, Joan. But yeah, it's pointed out one of the precepts of the Baha'i faith is the equality of men and women. And it is pointed out in a variety of ways by Abdul-Baha that women are simply, they're more, basically as the world goes through this change on our way to being a new, more peaceful world, it will be, that charge will primarily be led by women. Yes. I do want to say thanks to everyone who joined us. We do have a few minutes left here. But one thing I did not do is I want to say the unity prayer. So if you'll just hang on for just a second. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. And as always, we like to point out that this is, well, first of all, if anyone wants to, find more information on the Baha'i faith or go directly to a website where you can see all of these writings, of course, you could